I never thought my own flesh and blood could look me in the eye and tell me that I simply didn't matter as much as everyone else. But that's exactly what happened at my sister's wedding. Imagine spending months of your life saving up thousands of dollars, sacrificing your own needs, and putting your own life on hold just to give your sibling the absolute perfect wedding gift, only to be told that you are a non-priority guest who needs to sit in the back corner and stay out of the photos. I stood there in my best suit, holding a gift that represented a massive piece of my savings, while my own mother explained to me that because I wasn't married or wealthy like our other relatives, my presence just wasn't a priority for the family's image. I want to ask you honestly right now, before I tell you how this all blew up, was I wrong for taking back my gift and leaving them to deal with the financial fallout, or would you have walked out on your family too? To really understand how a family could treat their own son and brother this way, we have to go back about a year before the wedding. My sister, Chloe, has always been the golden child of our family. She is younger than me by 2 years, but according to our parents, she can do absolutely no wrong. When Chloe announced she was getting married to her boyfriend, Bradley, who comes from a very wealthy, old money background, my parents practically lost their minds with excitement. Suddenly, the wedding wasn't just a celebration of love. It was our family's grand debut into high society, a chance for my parents to show off and pretend they belonged to a social class they absolutely did not. My mother immediately took charge of the planning, working alongside Chloe to create an event so lavish it made my stomach turn just looking at the budget. I, on the other hand, have always been the quiet, practical one. I work a normal corporate job, live in a modest apartment, and don't care about luxury brands or social status. Because of this, my parents have always viewed me as a bit of a disappointment, the plain son who didn't live up to their grand ambitions. As the wedding planning kicked into high gear, the demands started rolling in. Chloe called me one evening, crying about how her dream venue in the countryside was stretching their budget to the absolute limit. She told me that Bradley's family was paying for the catering and the bar, but they still needed a high-end, premium photography and videography package to capture the day, which cost an astronomical amount of money. She dropped hints for an hour about how amazing it would be if someone could step up and cover that cost as a wedding present. I love my sister, or at least, I loved the person I thought she was, so I allowed myself to be manipulated by her tears. I told her right then and there that I would cover the entire photography and videography package as my wedding gift to her. It cost me $5,000, an amount that took a massive chunk out of my personal savings, but I figured it was a once-in-a-lifetime event, and my sister's happiness was worth it. I contacted the studio, paid the full amount up front, and received the confirmation vouchers, feeling proud that I could contribute something so significant to her special day. In the months leading up to the wedding, I barely heard from my family. Whenever I tried to call my mother or Chloe to check in, the conversations were incredibly brief, always centered around how busy they were with invitations, seating charts, and dress fittings. I noticed that I was being left out of a lot of the pre-wedding activities, like the family dinners with Bradley's parents, but I brushed it off, assuming they were just trying to keep the gatherings small. The first real red flag popped up when the formal invitations were mailed out. Everyone in the extended family received beautiful, thick, gold-embossed invitation suites, but mine arrived in a plain white envelope, looking like an afterthought. When I opened it, I realized my name was misspelled, and there was no mention of a +1, even though I had explicitly told Chloe I wanted to bring my long-term girlfriend. When I called Chloe to ask about it, she laughed it off, saying it was just a printer error and that since space was tight, they had to cut down on +1s for single or unmarried guests. I was annoyed, but my girlfriend graciously told me not to make a fuss and to just go and enjoy my sister's big day. The morning of the wedding arrived, and I drove 2 hours out to the countryside venue, wearing a brand new suit I had bought specifically for the occasion. I was carrying the official, fully paid photography contract in a sleek silver folder, ready to present it to Chloe before the ceremony started so she could have peace of mind. When I arrived at the venue, the sheer scale of the luxury was overwhelming. There were valets, massive floral arrangements, and a string quartet playing in the garden. I walked into the main building to find my family and the bridal party, expecting a warm welcome. Instead, when my mother saw me, her face fell. She rushed over, grabbed my arm, and pulled me into a side hallway away from the guests. She looked me up and down and asked why I was dressed so formally, pointing out that I wasn't part of the official groom's party. I told her that I was the brother of the bride, so of course I dressed up. She sighed, rubbed her temples, and told me that things were incredibly chaotic, and that they had to make some last-minute adjustments to the guest arrangements to accommodate Bradley's wealthy extended family. I followed my mother into the main reception hall, expecting to see my name at the head family table next to her and my father. Instead, my name card was nowhere to be found on the main tables. My mother walked me all the way to the very back of the room, past dozens of tables, right next to the kitchen doors and the service corridor. There was a small, cramped table tucked away in a dark corner, completely obscured by a large decorative pillar. My mother pointed to it and told me this was where I would be sitting. I was stunned. I asked her why the bride's only brother was being relegated to the worst seat in the house, behind a pillar, next to the kitchen. My mother looked around nervously, leaned in close, and whispered that Bradley's family had brought several high-profile business associates, and they needed all the prominent seats at the front. She then uttered the words that broke my heart. She said, "Look, you're not married, you don't have a high social standing, and honestly, you're a non-priority guest for this specific layout. We need to project a certain image today, so just sit here, stay out of the way, and please don't make a scene." I stood there in utter disbelief, feeling the blood rush to my face. I asked her if Chloe knew about this, and my mother admitted that Chloe was the one who helped finalize the seating chart. My own sister, the one who had cried on the phone to me begging for financial help, had classified her own brother as a non-priority to impress her new in-laws. To make matters worse, my mother told me that because the photographers needed to focus entirely on the aesthetic of the bridal party and the high society guests, I should stay in the background during the cocktail hour and avoid mingling in areas where the cameras were shooting. I was good enough to pay for the memories, but I wasn't good enough to be in them. So that is the exact situation I found myself in, standing in that hallway, realizing my family viewed me as nothing more than an ATM and an embarrassment to their new social standing. Before I tell you how I handled the confrontation and the absolute chaos that followed, I want you to pause right here and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have sat down quietly to save face, or would you have walked out? The realization of what they had done hit me like a physical blow. I looked down at the silver folder in my hand containing the $5,000 photography package that I had fully funded. I looked back at my mother, who was already turning away to greet a group of wealthy-looking people arriving at the entrance. Deep inside me, something snapped. The sadness and hurt instantly hardened into absolute, cold anger. I didn't yell, I didn't cause a scene, and I didn't shed a tear. Instead, I quietly walked out of the reception hall, found a quiet corner near the restrooms, and pulled out my phone. I called the manager of the photography and videography studio who was handling the event. Fortunately, because I had paid the premium package rate, I had a direct line to the owner. I told him that there had been a major change of plans regarding the event, and as the sole paying client on the contract, I was exercising my right to cancel the services immediately. The studio owner was shocked and explained that since it was the day of the event, a cancellation meant I wouldn't get a full refund. But because of their specific contract clauses regarding client-initiated cancellations on the day of, they could refund me 70% of the total amount back to my card, while the remaining 30% would be kept as a cancellation fee. I told him that was perfectly fine, to process the 70% refund immediately, and to instruct his team on site to pack up their gear and leave the venue right away. He confirmed the cancellation, and within 5 minutes, I watched from across the courtyard as the lead photographer and the videographer, who had just started setting up their expensive cameras and lighting rigs, began breaking down their equipment, packing it into black cases, and rolling them out to their van. They didn't say a word to the bridal party. They just followed the direct orders of the man who paid their bills. With the refund processing and the cameras gone, I walked out to the parking lot, got into my car, and drove away. I didn't even bother driving home. I drove straight to a nice steakhouse, ordered the most expensive meal on the menu, and turned my phone completely on silent. I spent the next few hours enjoying my own company, reflecting on years of being pushed aside by my family, and realizing that this was the definitive end of my relationship with them. It wasn't until around 9 o'clock that evening that I finally turned my phone back on, and the sheer volume of notifications nearly crashed my device. I had 37 missed calls from my mother, 14 from my father, and over 50 frantic caps lock text messages from Chloe. The texts started off demanding to know where I was because the photographers had suddenly vanished right before the ceremony, leaving them with absolutely nobody to shoot the main entrance, the vows, or the family portraits. As the hours progressed, the texts turned from confusion to absolute rage. Apparently, Chloe had approached the photography team as they were leaving, and they told her flat out that the client who holds the contract had canceled the service. When she realized that I was the one who canceled it, she completely lost her mind. One text from my father read, "How could you do this to your sister on her wedding day? You have ruined her life and humiliated our family in front of Bradley's parents. They had to use their cell phones to take photos of the ceremony like amateurs. You are a selfish, spiteful monster. My mother texted, 'We gave you a seat, and this is how you repay us. You are dead to this family.'" The aftermath over the next week was an absolute storm of drama. My extended family split down the middle. A few aunts and cousins who found out the truth about the non-priority seating, and the pillar actually defended me, saying my parents got exactly what they deserved for treating their own son like a second-class citizen. However, the core family, my parents and Chloe, embarked on a massive smear campaign, telling anyone who would listen that I sabotaged the wedding out of jealousy because I was single and unsuccessful. Chloe tried to threaten legal action against me to force me to pay for a private post-wedding photo shoot to make up for the missed pictures. But her threats were entirely empty since I owned the contract and had every legal right to cancel a service I paid for. Bradley's family apparently looked down on the entire situation, viewing our family drama as incredibly trashy, which completely ruined the high society image my parents had sacrificed their dignity to protect. I blocked my parents and Chloe on every platform, changed my locks, and decided that a family that calculates your worth based on social status isn't a family worth having. Looking back on this entire mess, I realized that taking back my gift wasn't just about the money or the revenge. It was about setting a definitive boundary and refusing to let the people who are supposed to love me treat me like an invisible stranger. I learned the hard way that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, respect, or love, and sometimes you have to walk away from the people who raised you just to keep your own self-respect intact. If you think I did the right thing by standing up to them and reclaiming my dignity, please hit the like button on this video to show your support. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more dramatic, real-life stories just like this one, and definitely share your final thoughts on this whole family nightmare down in the comments section below. I read through them and love hearing your perspectives. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Stay strong out there, and I'll see you all in the next story.